I recognize the member from Essex.
I move that in the opinion of this House, the Government of Canada should take immediate steps to eliminate the carbon tax on gasoline. As we've seen for 15 solid years previous to this government, taxation was the solution to everything, right? We saw at the advent of that 15 years of government that the Liberals brought in the biggest single tax increase in the history of the province of Ontario, and they said that it was called the employer health tax, and it was going to fix health care forever. Remember that? Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm not old enough to remember Premier Harris. I'm not old enough to remember Premier Harris, but I'm not old enough to remember Premier Ray, but I'm old enough to remember Premier McGuinty. And he said he was going to fix health care forever. How? Through taxation, because taxation is the Liberal solution to everything. After they introduced the biggest tax increase in the history of the province of Ontario, they laid off nurses, they trained fewer doctors, they reneged on a promise to build a hospital in Essex County, and then they drove up the biggest debt in the history of the province of Ontario, causing Ontario to be the most indebted sub-sovereign jurisdiction in the entire world. That is the Liberal legacy. The question I ask is, how long do you think it's going to take for this PC government to undo the massive damage done by the previous Liberal government over 15 years? I've never received an answer.
I recognize the member for Orleans.
Further to Standing Order 25B, the motion is in reference to the elimination of the carbon tax on gasoline and not in relation to any record of any political party. And so I would ask the member to discuss the elimination of the carbon tax on gasoline.
Hold that and allow the member to continue.
And in the course of 15 years, in reference to taxes on gasoline, all they ever did was raise taxes on gasoline, right? Now, let's just take a pause here. Let's just take a pause. Now, at any given time, you can ask the member from Essex to stand up and say, talk about your government's record. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to proudly talk about my government's record. But when we start talking about the Liberal record, then the members from the Liberal Independent Caucus, they stand up and go, no, please don't talk about the Liberal record. Please don't talk about that Liberal. Well, I'm going to talk about that Liberal record. I'm going to talk about it. In relation to carbon taxes on gasoline, because you know what? The Liberal philosophy is, as I stated previously, taxation is the solution to everything. Taxation. And they wanted to save the planet. So what they did is said, well, let's save the planet through taxation. That's what they were going to do. And so what they did is they taxed gasoline, and they taxed it more. And then they said, how can we hide more taxes in gasoline? Let's introduce the federal carbon tax so that we can hide more gas taxes in the gasoline, and that will create so much pain at the pumps, right? That was the goal. The goal of carbon taxes, as introduced by the federal Liberal government, is to create so much pain at the pumps that people can't afford to drive a car. That is the philosophy of the Liberal Party of Ontario. The real stuff we actually produce, tomatoes, cucumbers, awesome greenhouse vegetables. They're grown in the most important and biggest greenhouse industry in North America. Now, you would think that would be somewhere with a warmer climate, but because of the awesome ingenuity of immigrants who came to this country and started businesses in their garage because they weren't killed by liberal over-regulation, but rather graced by governments such as ours, who actually have dedicated ministers to remove red tape and stimulate entrepreneurs to create great businesses. They created the greenhouse industry, which is situated primarily in the town of Leamington, located in the riding of Chatham-Kent Leamington, represented by this awesome professional right in front of me. Okay? Now, at least 1,500 trucks leave that area every day, go down Highway 3, which, by the way, this government is expanding from 2 to 4 lanes, thus fulfilling a broken promise made by the Liberals. We are fulfilling the promise to expand it from 2 to 4 lanes. That's right. Taxation under Liberal philosophy is the salvation of the planet. That is Liberal philosophy. That's why we have a federal carbon tax on gasoline. The federal Liberal carbon tax, as cooked up as it was a revenue-generating scheme. That's what it was. It was to create pain at the pumps under a philosophy designed under the Liberal government, which thinks that taxation solves everything. I thought this was going to be a very dry discussion over taxation policy, and, it might be very dry, and maybe people wouldn't be so interested in discussing a topic like this. But it actually turned out to be a great discussion about competing philosophy. The philosophy as represented by the PC caucus of Ontario: scrap the carbon tax. The philosophy as represented by the Liberal Party of Ontario, now Independents: taxes save the world.